Why Peter Schiff hates Bitcoin. Welcome to Finance in 5. Several months ago, I did a video about Bitcoin on this channel in August when there were very few subscribers. Not that many people watched it, but I would encourage you to go back and watch it. And as you probably know, Bitcoin has surged in price since August. So in that video anyway, I said quite plainly that I was bullish on Bitcoin for the next 2 years. The video was published, as I've mentioned, in August 2020 when Bitcoin was hovering around the $9,000 per coin trading range. And now it's trading at all-time highs of over $39,000 per coin. So one thing that was slightly odd about that video is that underneath it, I got what looked like a comment from Peter Schiff, the well-known investor, voice of doom back in 2009, and author of The Real Crash, The Little Book of Bull Moves, Crash Proof, and other titles. Here is what he wrote. The market changes constantly and everyone wants to improve, update, enhance, blah-de-blah-de-blah. It was a long blurb which actually didn't address any of the points that I'd made about why I was bullish on Bitcoin. Somehow I think that this was a copycat account as opposed to an actual comment from the real Peter Schiff. If that's the case, Peter should go after this copycat account because this person is using his name to further their own business interests. Since Peter has been on YouTube for years, I find it hard to believe that he has only 501 subscribers. Just like it's hard to imagine that he would watch my videos when, as I've mentioned back in August, this channel had virtually no subscribers of its own. Anyway, whoever this person is appears to be dropping a sales pitch for their investing services because, as you can see, the army of awestruck acolytes commenting underneath on how great the service that he offers is pretty impressive to behold. Which makes it all the more amusing when I discover months later that Peter Schiff's unapologetic hatred of all things Bitcoin has fueled a row with his crypto-loving son, Spencer Schiff. Max Kaiser has even joined in on the conversation by calling Peter out as an out-of-touch baby boomer. I asked my mum recently, is it true that baby boomers never admit that they're wrong? Yes, she responded, while burning my trousers. Again, I'm not claiming that it's him commenting on my Bitcoin versus bullion video earlier. It probably isn't. All I know is that if he had followed the information that I'd presented in the video, then he would have made a 450% return. Now, does that mean that he's a bad investor? Of course not. He claims that he's bought shares in companies in 2020 that have outperformed Bitcoin. And since he manages Euro-Pacific Capital, his experience should make him highly attuned to risk in different markets. And besides, the last thing that he is going to do is speculate with other people's money. But the other thing that's quite amusing is that Peter puts these polls up from time to time on his Twitter page, the results of which seem to cause him repeated bouts of humiliation. For instance here, against my advice, my son @Schiff Spencer just bought even more Bitcoin. Whose advice do you want to follow? A 57-year-old experienced investor / business owner who's been an investment professional for over 30 years, or an 18-year-old college freshman who's never even had a job? And the result? Experienced professional, 20%. The kid, 80%. I sort of think he did this just to have a laugh. I could be wrong, but it's certainly very amusing. And it makes me think, is there a possibility that Peter Schiff is in on it and he is himself investing in Bitcoin? It's not beyond the realms of possibility. He's a fairly wealthy person. He will understand the benefits of the cryptocurrency and he will want to have a diversified portfolio. So it's by no means impossible that he has some exposure to cryptos. Maybe it's Bitcoin, maybe it's Ethereum, maybe it's other altcoins. Who can say? But in this video, the other thing I wanted to do today is because the end of yesterday's video got cut off. So I'm actually now going to share with you what I said at the end of it. So hopefully that will shed a little bit of light on what's coming down the pipeline in terms of the regulation of cryptocurrency. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. But here we get into some of the pitfalls possibly of Bitcoin and what to watch out for. All the very best. But we have to be careful about just how much it can oscillate in price. And A guy that we've had on this show before, Chris Vermeulen, made a tweet about this recently in which he said that you've got to be prepared for the fact that as much as Bitcoin can go up massively, it has the same downside potential. So you'd be stupid not to bear that in mind, because you're just risking losing all of that capital that you invest in the asset. And he's absolutely right, of course, about that. Why is it, some people ask, that gold went down and Bitcoin rallied? I mean, I know that gold has gone back up a little bit in the last few weeks. And it might be because of what's been going on with China. You know, we talked about how Bitcoin, it might not necessarily be any better than gold, but it's a way of moving money across borders outside of bank wires. The world is in so much chaos that we're not really going to see hyperinflation, but there's more likelihood, as opposed to hyperinflation, of the government cancelling currencies outright altogether. They want to cancel their debts because they've got such unbelievably enormous debts. And this whole great reset thing, 2030 you will own nothing and be happy. I put that in my last video. I know it's only got 100 views, which is, I guess that's just the way it is. But there's more detail on this topic in that video. Governments can cancel currencies whenever the hell they want. You know, they are not subject really to any rules. They just decide what they're going to do and they do it. They've reached the end of the rope. The rope's about to break. This idea that we can continue to borrow endlessly and not have to repay it is just ludicrous. And I think that they know that the game is up now, because they're just announcing this constant, just almost absurdly, offensively ridiculous borrowing now, where, oh yeah, fine, Boris Johnson announces, yeah, we'll give just every business £9,000. All borrowed from the productivity of unborn generations. And it's because they know that there's no way of paying all this debt back, so they're just going to roll all of these bonds on a perpetual basis, as opposed to ever being able to get the money back on bonds that you buy. So this is kind of what the Great Reset's about. Change the whole system because of the fact that the system is collapsing and is going to collapse anyway. How is Big Brother going to achieve this? Well, the IRS in America will just change the law, and that'll be the end of it. They'll just make a rule with the stroke of a pen. That's all they would need to do. If you're a US citizen, you get taxed on worldwide income anyway. So Congress has announced the Cryptocurrency Tax Fairness Act, which requires the Treasury Department to issue guidelines for informational reporting on digital currency transactions for which capital gains is due. The agency is going to make the rules, and those rules are sufficient as laws that carry criminal penalties. So the interpretation of how those laws should be applied or enforced belongs entirely to them. The courts will defer to them as the expert. The courts are not going to be independent. There will not be checks against any kind of arbitrary government tyranny that's imposed as a result of this. So there's no way around it. You know, you can easily they could introduce a 90% tax on profits from cryptocurrencies. If they want, they can do whatever the hell they want. You've got no way of protecting yourself against that. Or if you try to, they could clamp down hard on you. I'm not optimistic that Bitcoin offers a free market alternative to Fedcoin, for instance. It could just be requisitioned so easily by governments, there are numerous ways. They could just make it illegal. They could requisition it. They could impose heavy taxation on it. They could impose stringent penalties if you fall foul of their newly imposed legislation. They can do what the hell they want. We're in the government collapse phase. They don't ask you what they should do before imposing some arbitrary tyranny. They impose it first, ruin the lives of tens of thousands of people, and then blame you for existing when it all goes wrong. I mean, it should be obvious that there's no way any of these people want you to have a future. I mean, why are we even debating this? This is quite clear. So the critical issue is going to be, what does the Internal Revenue Service in America do, and what do other tax agencies do? Are they going to declare that everybody who mines Bitcoin is a financial institution, and that they then have to report every single transaction because they're a financial institution? The regulatory burden is going to curtail anyone who's actually involved with Bitcoin. But the fact is, most people have bought it because they want it to appreciate in price, and then they could pocket huge gains. So as of most recent information, Bitcoin is $39,092.10. And here we have an article in which Peter Schiff's understanding of money is called into question by his pro-Bitcoin son, Spencer Schiff. And interestingly, we have a family feud here. We've got Max Kaiser talking about how Bitcoin is awesome and Peter Schiff absolutely still hating it or claiming still to hate it. And we have each party arguing about what they think sound money is. Schiff Sr. seems to claim that Bitcoin is a bubble and it's going to collapse back down because there's no intrinsic value or tangible value. But it's not going to be that easy, really, as we've talked about in previous videos, for anybody to come along now, this stage, this late in the game, and begin their own new cryptocurrency, which has the widespread adoption and security features that Bitcoin does. Perhaps Peter should create Schiffcoin, which could be a rival cryptocurrency for the Puerto Rican official currency. I don't know, it's an option. I would buy Schiffcoin. I just don't know if other people would too. It's not all that obvious to me, or clear to me, or verifiable to me that Bitcoin has no intrinsic value for reasons that we've gone into in more depth in the previous video, which I would encourage you to go back and watch. But here we have Peter Schiff. He's quite serious about it. He's saying, it's a bubble. And the thing is, of course, not that I'm trying to cast aspersions on anybody, but if part of your business model involves selling gold to people, it's unlikely that you're going to shoot yourself in the foot by claiming there are other assets out there that are better. Even if Bitcoin has gone up this much, he's not going to start to praise it. The reason why I showed this graph here, velocity of M2 money stock, what on earth does that mean? It's a graph which, simply put, shows the velocity of money. So in other words, how many times a dollar is being spent, or essentially how much purchasing is occurring. So it tells you here, the velocity of money is the frequency at which one unit of currency is used to purchase domestically produced goods and services within a given time period. In other words, it's the number of times $1 is spent to buy goods and services per unit of time. If the velocity of money is increasing, then more transactions are occurring between individuals in an economy. The frequency of currency exchange, blah, blah, blah. So basically, that because this huge drop in 2020 has occurred, we see that fewer people are participating in transactions within the economy. And we're in the stage in the game now in which people aren't getting returns from bank shares or savings. They're not really getting returns from companies being productive because these lockdowns are being perpetuated by governments. So what's happening is they have to invest speculatively. Bitcoin has been the bandwagon that a lot of people have jumped onto, and that has helped them to actually get some gains, despite the fact that the economy isn't really succeeding very much.